Oh, they've done it! Simon Terodde, an instant hero! Can you believe it? Plenty attacking! No! The comeback is complete! A stunning second half from Schalke!
Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute, willkommen zum einzigen Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right folks, episode 141 of SchalkeMerica is here. I'm your host Richard Carmen. Joining me as always, co-host Jack Mangan. Jack, happy Wednesday, happy hump day.
Happy Wednesday to you as well. Sorry for the delay this week, folks. That's entirely my responsibility. I'll tell you what, you say it was episode 141. I honestly haven't been keeping track. You could probably put any number in front of the episode, and I would just nod my head and accept it at this point. So.
Episode 1037.
There you go. Hey, it could be. Feels like it sometimes with somehow how long some of these seasons have been.
Yeah.
For us. Yeah, but I'm doing well. You doing well, sir?
I'm doing well considering it's a crazy time to be a Schalke fan, huh? It feels like 2019 all over again. We hear the names BURGSTALLER, we hear TEDESCO, all this kind of stuff. There's another guy from the past that's back in our lives as well too.
Yes. See, okay, now of course the hope was that once this transfer had been completed, there would be enough playing time for this individual and enough phenomenal moments that it would kind of justify us creating like a whole like title card sequence that we could flash to in the middle of the stream, little Kutucu watch or something. But unfortunately, that has not been the case. But we do have our inaugural Kutucu watch update for you, and that is because he came on. I forget if he started or if he came. No, he had to start. It was early in the match. Yeah. Started in the Turkish Cup for Istanbul in a loss, actually, unfortunately, but scored an absolute banger, folks, from well outside the box. Really nice goal. Had I think he had the ball kind of on like midfield by the sideline, dumped it down into the corner, kind of fouled that in diagonally, got the ball back, and just ripped one to the far post. A thing of beauty, and obviously brings a tear to the eye. When you think about what we've lost and what may have been, but there you go. So there's the first one. Kutucu lives. He is freed. Yeah. Hopefully freed more often from the bench at Istanbul as well.
So last week we had Shanbazo on with the screamer. This week we got Kutucu with the screamer. I mean, next Buyaleb or Harid, I guess. So
got you right.
Yeah. Well, I guess last weekend was BURGSTALLER as well, right? But we'll get to that. Yeah. Unfortunately for us, but some other news to relive our past. Domenico Tedesco, back in our lives again, sort of. Many Schalke fans had hoped that maybe we see the return of Tedesco, in particularly because Grammozis isn't doing that great this season, and so maybe if Schalke tend to let go Grammozis during the winter break, maybe we bring on Tedesco, right? Well, those dreams are dashed now. And we got a comment that says, and Schalke would say, Schalke is scheiße. Yeah, thanks. They play like that sometimes, especially this last game. But Domenico Tedesco, yeah, he is going to be the new RB Leipzig manager. This news broke, today or yesterday? Pretty interesting time, I guess. I don't know what to make of this. I mean, I'm glad that he's back in the Bundesliga. Maybe not so much at Leipzig. What are your thoughts on what you heard about Tedesco?
Well, it's interesting because this was the kind of the big managerial break for American Jesse Marsch, which is the American tie into this. From that entire pipeline, was coaching it in MLS, and then obviously went to Salzburg and kind of got some hype and some notoriety around some of the performances they had, I think, in the Champions League against Liverpool, for example. And there was like a locker room speech that he had given that were people were really excited about anyway. So, when Nagelsmann ultimately departed, he was brought over from Salzburg to keep that pipeline going. And unfortunately has not worked out for him. I know there was a lot of players that moved in the summer and everything, but even so, you wouldn't expect this Leipzig team to be hovering, which is where are they, like mid-table at the moment? Maybe they're somewhere in that vicinity, like outside the top 10, I think. And they had lost 3 games in a row on the bounce, and so that was kind of the end of it. They moved to get rid of Jesse Marsch, and I think the thing that was so interesting about it to me is that And like I haven't watched a ton of Leipzig, and I haven't watched a ton of Tedesco in Russia, so like I'm not really up to speed in terms of exactly like the styles. But I mean, I understand the Jesse Marsch thing wasn't working out, but I don't think that if they were, maybe trying to return to what something more like what Nagelsmann had in place, that Tedesco would be the guy that you would go for, because like once again, having not seen a lot of him in Russia, but like he was not known for a possession based approach or whatever. I mean, maybe some of his like his pressing and stuff is nice, but like to me it's not stylistically like a great fit in terms of what he's produced in the past, in my opinion. And I could be very wrong on this, but so I thought it was an interesting appointment for that. But there you go. Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of fans have wanted him back. That was always kind of unrealistic, but we still love Teddy as a figure and a personality. And so I think there was people that were disappointed to see him go to a club like Leipzig, which is obviously not everyone's favorite club, but big move for Tedesco. And so you got to be happy for him. It's a big job. He's kind of back in the Bundesliga now for a club that should be, a Champions League level club. Not there in the table, but yeah, interesting appointment.
TedescoTime is back. Ethan's always been here, but the coach is actually back in our lives. It's an interesting hire, I think, because you're right. He doesn't play anything like Nagelsmann. I mean, what the similarities are that they were in the same class together, right? They both graduated together. Tedesco ahead of Nagelsmann. That's pretty much where it ends up. They're both young, yeah, but we obviously like Tedesco for whatever, for our many different reasons. And he stylistically he can change things up, and he, like you mentioned, he's good with the press, and they can be fluid in the formation, but wasn't known for the attacking style of football that we come to know Leipzig with and Nagelsmann with, or even with Salzburg. The hire of Marsch to go into Leipzig made perfect sense. Once it's in the RB stream, right, from New York to Salzburg to Leipzig. But also he played attacking football. I mean, I think when it was last year's at Salzburg, this team scored 152 goals. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? Helps to have Haaland and Daka on your team, but I mean, they had goal scorers throughout the team. So it's going to be interesting to see how Tedesco does there. Obviously, we like the guy and hope he does well, but it's going to be an interesting hire because, Jesse Marsch is gone now, and it's funny because the rumor mill starts now. Once Marsch left Leipzig, we obviously know the situation at Schalke, and we thought, well, we know there's not many viable candidates that are big name candidates that we think could fit perfectly, could fit with Schalke. Now you got Jesse Marsch in the fold. That could be a possibility. Whether he wants to take a step down to Zweite, that's a question. But people will say, hey, he managed an MLS already in Austria. This is if he gets Schalke to that back to Bundesliga, that's gonna be legendary status for him. Thoughts on the possibility of that name being thrown if Grammozis were not to make it for the full season?
Well, I mean,
if they could afford it,
I don't know. I feel like most Schalke supporters at the moment, if you said, hey, look, here's a relatively competent, manager who has gotten, at least good results at times on large stages. Do you want that over Grammozis? Like, yeah, they would say yes. I think most people would be like, sure, like this is not working, because a lot of people feel that way anyway. It's not even like, would you like Jesse Marsch? We want to get rid of him without really having many concrete replacement options even being like talked about or rumored. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, and also as SchalkeMerica, I think we would love that. But I would be absolutely floored if that was a move that he would consider making in his career. I think, once again, Schalke is such a poison chalice, and going from Leipzig to like Schalke in the second division is I think not something that he would want to be doing. I think I don't know if there were rumors already or if this was just people talking, but like of maybe joining the staff at Man U as well with Rangnick, bringing on Chris Arbus from MLS as well. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I'm sure Jesse Marsch will bounce back. He's on a decent trajectory. He'll get another job somewhere. He'll be fine. And I'm sure he'll stay in Europe and do something. And so best wishes to both of them. It'll be interesting to follow Tedesco's progress, and I'm very curious to see how he's actually going to set up that team and like what he's going to try to do from approach standpoint. So I'm gonna have to watch some Leipzig games, man, which brings me no joy. But my interest is piqued.
Mine as well. I'll certainly watch this weekend to see what they do. They obviously had a big win in the Champions League this week yesterday As a
Yeah, they
result
get rid of
of-
Marsh and they promptly beat Man City, right? Isn't that it's hilarious?
Funny how that works, right? But yeah, so we'll be curious to see that. And we are on Grammozis' watch officially, losing to St. Pauli 2-1. Scoreline suggests that hey, it wasn't that bad of a match. We only lost by 1 goal. Yeah, Burgstaller scored. He was always going to score against us, right? We kind of knew that. Looking at the lineups real quick for that match, and I'm already looking ahead to Nurnberg. That's just because that's what I do. Give me a second here. There we go. All right. So lineups in this one for the home team, which was St. Pauli. Vasily in goal was Zander, Zeris, Lawrence, and Pacareda. No S this time. The midfield, you had Irvine, Smith, Hartel, and Kira, and then Burgstaller and Matanovic up top. Obviously, the big name that's going to draw all our attention is going to be Burgstaller, for good reason. He's one of the leading goal scorers in the Zweite Liga. And then he's playing the former team, but he's bound to score. I mean, which he did. Was that your big worry? Was anyone else that you were looking at going into the game?
No, not really. Yeah, it was the long-awaited reunion with Burgstaller, which we were excited to see, not just because of his obviously former relationship with the club, but because that he's in good form this year and producing for St. Pauli. So yeah, and he delivered as most former Schalke players seem to do when we come against them. It's almost an inevitability. I was surprised that he didn't actually end up getting the hat trick. Probably could have at certain points. But yeah, beyond that, not a whole lot of note for me.
Yeah, no. I knew that Zander was a guy that we had to keep an eye on. He tends to be good down the right-hand side. It seemed like his opposite on the other side, Pacareda, was a guy who was pivotal in the game, and so was Kire in the game. He was all over the place in this game. Looking at our lineup was very different. Obviously, we had the injuries going into the game from last game, and then we had a bunch more that popped up, including Bulter and a few others and during the game. So our lineup was a lot different than normal. So Frazel in goal, back three was normal. Kaminsky, Itakura, and Tiao. Paulson in the midfield with Salazar and Drexler, Aidan and Oyan on the wings. But on the up top, you had Peringer, which was great to see him start, and Dadashov from the Schalke 2. So always going to be an interesting game. I was curious to see how Peringer would do in this game, finally getting a start, get an opportunity to show what he's got to the manager. And what could Dadashov produce to help Peringer out, help the team out? And could we use that momentum from last week against Sandhausen, scoring 5 goals, to maybe surprise St. Pauli early in the matchup? That was my thing looking at the lineup before the game. The same thing for you?
We've been harping on, the depth at the striker position all season, and how it was potentially unwise. I mean, we had to do it for financial reasons, but to move the likes of Kutucu and Matthew Hoppe off the books, in a season where you're kind of relying on an old striker and Simon Zarada, who, you're concerned about durability just for age reasons. He went down, and then we're like, all right, well, time for Bolter to step up. And he did. Granted, once again, Sandhausen, not a difficult opponent, but had a really nice match there. And you're like, hey, the offense almost looked a little bit freed in the absence of Terada, with him less of a focal point on some of those, long balls and everything. It seemed to open things up a little bit and breathe. And Bolter played very well. But then you lose Bolter on the back of that. And now suddenly you're looking at Dadashov and Peringer as a starting pairing, and you're like, oh, this is not ideal. We're interested in Peringer. He's had some moments, but still not somebody that I don't think you want to see starting on a regular basis. Certainly not over Terada and Bolter at all. And then Dadashov is just this guy, basically. I mean, no offense to him, but so that was worrying, and that was not what you'd like to have ideally going into a match against the top of the table opponent in Sao Paulo. The only nice thing is the back four, essentially, including the back three plus the goalkeeper, is the established back four, if you will. Yeah. And then honestly, that's kind of my ideal midfield.
Yes, I
entirely. Owayan and Aiden, Zalazar, Drexler, and then you could argue maybe flick on it in a certain type of match potentially over Paulson, but generally you'd probably want to see Paulson there. So everything from the front and backward was fine, and it's really just the people up top that are going to be the concern. But based on how this match went largely, I think you kind of feel like it was almost there were more changes in other areas of the pitch, but there weren't. It just was not, as strong of a performance as you would hope to see.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. 2-1. 2 goals in the first half, both by big Guido Burgstaller. First, it was a lovely over-the-top ball play to Burgstaller. He did well to hold back Oyan with his body, let the ball drop in front of him, and then, of course, he's going to score from the angle. It was good. It was a decent angle by him, and he got it on goal, and it was a good shot there. So that was 1-0 there, and then off a corner kick in the 39th minute. Nice short passing over the top. I don't know if it was Paulson. I forget. It was somebody with the orange boots, which Paulson usually wears. Did a really poor job of marking Burgstaller, and it went over the top of him. Burgstaller with a header for the goal. Didn't celebrate either goal. Classy by him. But 2 big goals, but it was all St. Pauli in that first half. We looked pretty abysmal in that game. We really couldn't do anything. We tried to counter a couple times, but it was mostly ball in our possession, in our half, excuse me. Did you take that from the first half as well, minus the 2 goals?
This was a weird game for me because I felt like if you look at the statistics from this game, it looks pretty even. And almost everywhere we see, also we have a higher XG value in this game than St. Pauli did,
which is great.
And like our passing stats are similar, like shots are similar, that sort of thing. There's a lot of areas in this match where like it looks like it was almost a fairly even contest, and that was not the impression you got at all watching this game. No. There was maybe a pocket of, I want to say, 10 minutes in the first half where we put some high pressure on them. And we're starting to win things back, and we seem to like have some, once again, coordinated pressure, not just individuals making random kind of stabs at things, but in a team concept that resulted in some turnovers, and we had some competent play, and that just went away again. And the second half was much the same way, where it was kind of mostly one-way traffic, and then all of a sudden we have like a 15-minute spell towards the end of the match where we're suddenly playing competent again. It's like, okay, so why is there this stopping and starting so often in the context of these matches? Why can't we consistently stay at this level? Which isn't going to say like, oh, you can never concede a goal. I'm just saying like there's moments where it's like, okay, something has like clicked and it's suddenly like fit into shape, and then there's moments where it's just completely disorganized and nothing can happen on either end of the ball. So that's frustrating. But yeah, as far as the Burgstaller things go, real quick, I mean, the funny thing about the first one is on the live stream when you and I were talking, the 5 minutes before that first Burgstaller goal, they had made that exact same pass to him like twice, and I called it out like maybe like a minute and a half before the goal was scored. I was like, they've started playing this diagonal crossfield ball, kind of that like top right shoulder area to Burgstaller, and that's really starting to worry me because it's not being covered. As we know, like especially like Oyan is pretty far up a lot. Like he's not as deep as like Chipka typically was. And naturally, they chip it over the top. He uses his body. And that's Burgstaller's strength has always been his balance, his strength. Mm-hmm. He's not the fastest, doesn't have the greatest footwork, but he, like those sorts of things. And he loves those oblique angle shots. We saw him take a lot of those at Schalke. And it was a really nice finish from him. So the first goal was well deserved. It was a really nice individual play from Burgstaller. And then the second one, St. Pauli had these short corner routines all game long. They had so many clearly rehearsed like training ground routines. And I don't know if we just like weren't prepared for that at all, or if they were throwing new ones at us that we hadn't like seen in any of like our film or whatever, but like we seemed wholly unprepared. And that second Burgstaller goal, I mean, I'm sure part of it's kind of like maybe what we're trying to accomplish from a defensive scheme on corners, but like he was completely unmarked the entire time. Nobody put a body on him. And in my opinion, it's just like when you have a target man like that and a guy who's like, their most dangerous player, just at least somebody put a body on him and they make contact with him to let him get a free header and free movement to get to the ball. And he just kind of snuck in between a couple guys and really nice glancing efforts. So 2 nice goals from Burgstaller. You got to give him credit. The second one in particular, I just think was a little bit disappointing in terms of the effort on that particular set piece.
Yeah, I agree about that. Like I said, I thought it may have been Paulson, but if it was, I apologize. But it was somebody, and it looked like someone in yellow boots or orange boots that Paulson typically wears. But nonetheless, Burgstaller free, scored that header. And yeah, the statistics, I mean, you weren't lying about statistics. Let's look at the final statistics here. Shots 15-14 St. Pauli. Shots on target 6-5 St. Pauli. Possession 49-51 Schalke. Passes 398 for Schalke, 394 for St. Pauli. Pass accuracy 73% for both teams. corner kicks where's corners 4-8. So that's a big difference. But yeah, and look, you would think looking at the statistics that hey, it was a close game, and even 2-1, you're like, okay, hey, it was a close game, but it was really an abysmal performance in the second half. We were hoping to see Buskins or somebody getting, because no Grammozis in this one. It was just the game he was not there, right? No, he was there. It was last game. Wait, which game was?
No, I thought that was this game.
Yeah, this
maybe
game.
he wasn't on the sideline. I forget.
He had COVID.
I don't know. Maybe it could have been last game.
Times
running together. Whatever.
But we were hoping that Buskins or Asamoah would go there and kick somebody's ass in there and fire, let them up. And they came out the second half and it wasn't really that great, honestly. We did end up getting a consolation goal. It was a nice goal actually off a corner kick, 75th minute. Oyan crosses it in off the corner and Salazar unmarked. No one was paying attention to him and he got a free header in. Nice goal there. 2-1. We had some hope. It gave us all hope because at that point we looked like trash. As one of the commenters said, it looked like Shiza. But when they got that goal, it gave us all hope. And then we really did nothing with that, honestly. It was just same that we saw before. Like I said, the optics in this one were, I think the true feelings is that, we were dominating this game, even though everything else says it was a close game. And it's disappointing because the statistics someone brought up during the live stream was that against the top 8 this year, we have 1 win, 6 losses, and 1 draw or something crazy like that, which is not a form that's going to get you promoted. And we got 2 big games left in the first half of the season. We got our friends Nurnberg this Friday, just a couple days away, and then we got Hamburg. And then this is going to be 2 big games for Grammozis and Schalke because at present, looking at the table, St. Pauli's in first, 35 points. They got a nice 6-point gap between them and Darmstadt. Darmstadt's got 29. Regensburg at 28. Paderborn at 27. Nuremberg and Heidenheim's back in the action on 27. Hamburg in 7th with 26. And then we're technically tied with Hamburg, but we're in 8th. So, yeah, I mean, 2 games. Go ahead.
Yeah. It was unfortunate because some people will roll their eyes that we're saying this was a promotion contest when Schalke was at 8th place in the table, but 2 points off of 3rd place. So, I mean, I still feel comfortable actually saying that, but it was a promotion 6-pointer. And so, the result of this could have been that, St. Pauli's at 32 and we're at 29 and we're a result away from 1st place. And instead they're at 35 and we're at 26. And suddenly it's a 9-point gap between us and the top, and that's how quickly those things can kind of change. So, but still within shouting distance of the top 3. It's once again, I understand there's absences, particularly on the offensive end, which is where we've been struggling, in my opinion, more all season long anyway. But and this is a very unscientific term, but it's which team felt more likely to score, and I think that's a sentiment that anybody that's really a fan of football and watches a lot of games, there's inertia and sort of momentum in soccer matches that you don't, that it's just kind of a special kind of it that you don't see in other sports at certain, and there's times where it's just kind of like, if this team scores, the goal's going to come out of nowhere because they're not showing us anything. And for so many minutes in that game, it's just like you were watching Schalke and you're like, I don't know how they're going to get the ball into the final third. I don't know, where this is going to come from if it does. Like I said, it took that maybe 15-minute stretch in the second half where we played pretty well, which the goal was a part of. And once again, by the way, Thomas Oyan with the assist, that ball into Drexler from, and then Zalazar kind of unmarked in the center of the box. So Oyan doing things again. And Zalazar scoring now in a clip, suddenly, like scoring a few goals here and there.
It's good. We need it.
Big. Absolutely. It's just, I mean, if you look at St. Pauli, 36 goals scored, Darmstadt 38, Regensburg 33, and we're down at what is it? What are we at? 29. So, I mean, I think defensively we're pretty average, pretty middle of the road. We've been fine this season, relative to where everyone else is, but relative to the top 3 at the moment, we're not scoring enough. And we need to find a way to get more goals in. And part of that's system based and part of that's getting our guys back. But yeah.
And the crazy thing with that statistic that we read earlier about us against the top 8 is that as bad as we've been, we're still within 3 points of being in 2nd place, which is crazy. Imagine we had done a little bit better in some of those games. We're talking a different thing here. And this is those little things, those little details. We talked about how difficult this league is. Those little details, it could be what determines if Schalke goes up and down or not. And that's why I think these next 2 big games are so crucial for not only Schalke, but and particularly Grammozis, because you would imagine if we let's look at the worst case scenario. We lose the next 2 games, we are probably out of the top 10. There's a good chance that we're out of the top 10. And I can't imagine that we would see Grammozis back in the second half. I mean, it's possible, but I would imagine if our aspirations are to go back to the Bundesliga immediately and we're middling around somewhere 12th, 13th position at the Winterpause, that's not a good chance. Though we are close points wise, there's that. But still, 6-1 against the top 8 this so far this season is not a statistic that says we're going to get promoted.
Yeah, it isn't. It isn't. And the performances haven't been there. I mean, like, once again, maybe we're being harsh because it was a 2-1 result. And like we said, statistically, there's a lot of areas where it's similar, but it's just, there was a gulf in class between the two teams in that game. And it felt tangible when you were watching it. And I felt the same way when we played Regensburg.
Yes.
I felt the same way when we played, I think, Darmstadt, unless I'm maybe I'm thinking Paderborn.
One of those two.
It's just, there's been too many games, once again, against those better opponents where it's like, it doesn't feel that close. And that's a problem because, as you said, yeah, I mean, if we had changed some of those results around, like, hey, maybe we had like randomly dropped a couple points to more mid-table teams, but we had managed to do something better against those top-table teams, and we're even closer. Kind of despite what we've done. And yeah, I mean, the second half of the season is going to have to involve more of those promotion 6-pointer dubs for us. And it's funny because like so often in the last like few years, like we've talked about, like Schalke like just drop points against bad teams for no reason, but then like we'll get up for a Dortmund match and we'll like get a result against Dortmund sometimes. And
now
like,
it's the opposite.
We've gotten some results against Leipzig, for example, in recent seasons. Like, and now it's just like, we're beating up on Sandhausen as we should. And we look pretty impotent against, the top 3, top 4. So, yeah, I think it's probably time to make that change if you're going to make it. And if you're not going to make it, that's fine. But I can't see many Schalke supporters being particularly optimistic at this point. Maybe it'll be that Christmas miracle. They'll rip off a couple results real quick, couple quick dubs, and people will like change their minds again. But like, it's just, we're 16 matches into the season. I think we've seen enough of this team under Grammozis and seen enough of this crop of players to understand what we have and what we're working with. And I think it's been very steady all season, but it's not improving. And the areas that we need to improve in have not seen a lot of adjustment, I don't feel like. And yeah, I don't know.
I would say with these next 2 games, if we win both these 2 games, I think Grammozis probably keeps his job based on what Schroeder, because we'll be in the top 3 more than likely. Not more than likely. We'll be potentially in the top 3. We lose both these games, I think he's done. At least he should be, in my opinion. And if we go 1-1, probably he's gonna stay. Our luck, but yeah, it's gonna be hard. Toyota's out for the rest of the first half of the season. Lots is out now. He's only out for the first half of the season, right? Not the whole season.
Correct. He's the same situation as Terada. He came on as a sub in this one, and then that got announced after the game that he's going to be unavailable for the final 2 matches as well.
And Terada's going to be like injury or something himself.
It's going to be like Flick and Adrizzi potentially, and Petrucciani and guys like that in the substitute role.
Yeah, and Cherlinov is out as well. Hopefully he's back soon. So we got a little bit of injuries. Hopefully Bolter is back quicker. I think he had a little bit of a calf or some kind of strain on himself also before the game. So hopefully they're back soon because we're going to need them for Nurnberg here on Friday. And again, obviously Hamburg after that. So no watch along this next game because it's on Friday. It's during the work week for us. So, but we will definitely bring the podcast and get the information for that too. And it also helps that we got Schalke TV now. Schalke finally reached out to us with our requests. And so we got Schalke TV now, which we're happy about. Probably won't stop us from watching live games as well, but it's good to have those games in handy, and you get to watch a lot of interviews and stuff as well. So happy about that purchase for us. So yeah, Nuremberg up ahead there. I mean, they're basically where we are in the table, 1 point ahead of us, two places in the table ahead of us. What are your thoughts going into that game? I mean, the last 2 games, obviously, last 2 games, not Schroeder. Played really well against Sandhausen, as we probably should. Not so well against St. Pauli. And now we got a team who's probably around our end of the table. And our friends. Thoughts?
Yes. I mean, this isn't specific to Nuremberg exactly, but I mean, one thought is we need a better performance out of Aiden in this next match.
he
If
had
he
a
starts
good
over
game.
Ranful, that was, I think, a pretty
Yeah.
poor performance from Iden in general. I mean, I want to say like Oweyan had like 10 crosses or something like in this game.
Yeah.
And the next best person wasn't Iden, it was Drexler. Same
Yeah, Drexler
side
played pretty well, I thought.
with 5, because he loves to go down the left-hand side, then cut back onto his right foot
Right,
and
yep.
play the cross in. Salazar had some crosses as well. I think Iden had like 1 maybe. He just could not do much down that right-hand side in this match. And I think if he can get cooking again, as we've seen him do a couple times in games, then we become a little bit more difficult to defend against, because you can't overload against Oweyan as much. Like, you have to play a little bit more honest in terms of where you're shifting, your shape a little bit behind the ball. And so I don't know. I think that would be a key as well. But yeah, hopefully we get Bolter back. I didn't check to see what the status of that injury was, but hopefully we have him back for that one, because Dadashov, not great in that game. Hardly noticed him.
Non-existent.
Pieringer came on late, not come out of the match, but like started performing better late, but had a very similar first half to Dadashov. I mean, I don't think either of them got involved in that one at all. So those are kind of like the things that I'm going to be looking for heading into this new one, assuming some of those guys play again. We need better performances out of those that group of players.
I agree. And before I get to let me get to answer Matt's question, yes, we can all send it for Schalke TV. Basically, write an email to Schalke. You just go to the website, email them, tell them you're in the States, you requesting that you'd like to have Schalke TV. They will send you a link, because if you try to sign up through their website, it won't let you, because obviously European and your credit card won't get accepted. So Schalke will send you a link that you click on, the way you can make your purchase that way. So
you have to be a club member for that?
No, but it does help.
Okay.
It does help. Because they asked me if I had membership. They're like, yeah, I gave it to them, but it's not necessary.
Gotcha.
So yeah, if you want it, try it. It might be a while. Like I said, we both tried at the beginning of the season and just got it now, so it might take a while. I know some of the people who as well started the beginning of the season haven't got it yet, so maybe we all get a Christmas miracle. But back to the point about Nuremberg. I mean, we've talked about it also at the watch along about we needed to see, with no Bolter, no Terodo, we needed to see Salazar step up. He played all right. Had a goal, obviously, had some crosses in there. He needs to be big in this game. Next 2 games coming up, especially we don't know what the status of Bolter is. Oweyan, he's been doing his thing. Draxler's been playing well. I agree with you. He needs to do better. We need to see better also from the 6th position. Paulson, I didn't think had that good of a game. Not that Flick's been any better. I mean, Flick's been okay, and Paulson's generally been okay. But now with Latza out, you kind of have your ideal midfield 3 with Paulson, or you could put Flick in there. Whoever plays that 6th position needs to play a lot better. And we talked about the Sandhausen match, that when the team is playing well, that's when you start seeing Malik Thiaw get into the offense. And in this game against St. Pauli, he didn't venture forward at all, maybe once. It's kind of indicative of how the game went. And I noticed the passing between Kaminsky and Itakura as well. The passing wasn't really that great for all of them. So they all have to do better passing-wise. And then hopefully Malik's in the mood that he gets up there and tries to get in the action, because that was sorely missed.
Yeah. And I continue to be shocked that we haven't seen Timo Becker.
I know.
I mean, look, and no disrespect to Ranful, but like if Trojanov's hurt and Ranful's your option off the bench, really is Becker just can't do that job? I don't know, man. Yeah, maybe I'm just completely misappraising him, but anyway.
Maybe with Schalke TV we can watch some of these practices and see what we can see what the coach sees, because I don't get it. And we talked about this in the past, where times when we didn't see Bozdogan, where we didn't see Kutucu. We heard rumors about the Kutucu, but Bozdogan and some of these other guys, we didn't see them more. And maybe it's something to do in practice. It'll be just something we don't see. And I wish they would say a little bit more on the interviews instead of just being fairly mood about it. But yeah, it's a big week again. Big ahead, a friendly game against or friends, I should say. It's not a friendly. We need to win this game, but yeah, we'll see what happens here. Big game for us. Next 2 games really for the Winterpause. Need to get some results here, or lots of questions will be asked. Anything to wrap up on this?
Lots of questions.
Lots.
Exactly. Unfortunately, the best defensive team in the Bundesliga last time I checked.
Yes,
Nuremberg.
Yeah.
Which does not necessarily bode well, because as we've said, offense for us has probably been where we feel like we haven't been maximizing as well as we could.
Yeah.
More so because our defensive struggles, once again, mostly the first few matches of the season, I think generally we're like worse. I have to check some of, like, in terms of how many goals we were shipping and stuff, but that's kind of settled down, and we're usually okay now. It's just, we got to get a little bit more out there. So to run into a stingy opponent like Nuremberg is not ideal. What are they at? Like, let me see. Yeah, 16 goals conceded in 16 matches. So
pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad at all. And so, yeah, we'll see what they well, it should be a low scoring game. Should be, but you never know. You never know these kind of situations. And so let's just hope we can get some of these guys back for the next game to give us a little bit more options. No disrespect to Dadashov, but I'd like to see Bolter back. Maybe Trilinov back as well. And maybe see some Idrizi in the matchup for a change. We see him late cameos all the time. We need to see a little bit more of him, I think. Unless he's another guy we're not seeing in practice that's doing really poor. I don't know. So,
by the way, last thing real quick. Speaking of striker pairings, do you know what today is the anniversary of?
COVID-19.
My phone just starts talking to me about coronavirus, which is interesting. Anyway.
Do you have to know today is the anniversary of?
Today's the anniversary. What's today? 12/8. I do not.
Today is the anniversary of the greatest striker partnership ever seen in the history of the Bundesliga, which is, of course, Hamza Mendel and Weston McKennie. In the 2018 Hinrunde edition of the Revere Derby, 2-1 loss to Dortmund there. I think I was in at the watch party in Ohio for that one. But anyway, yeah. So I think based on what we saw in the last match, I'd probably take that Hamza Mendel McKennie pairing at the moment.
At least there's pace up top, right? At least there's pace up top.
Yeah, exactly. Muscle. So got to get more from up front.
Oh man, yeah. It's funny. I actually started playing Football Manager 22. I'm trying to see what I can do with Schalke, and one of the scouts,
not a lot.
Oh yeah, one of the scouts says Hamza Mendel, he's one for the future. I'm like, all right.
One for the future, he's one for the past.
Yeah, I know, right?
No, I'm kidding.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap this one up. It's not much to talk about. It's same old headaches, it seems like. But let's see if things can change here against Nuremberg.
Can I ask you one final question? I'm sorry to extend this. One final question for you.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, take away the results that we see in the next two matches. Just forget about, regardless of what happens there. This moment in time, based on, once again, we've seen now 16 of the 18 matches we're going to see in the first half of the season. We have a good sample size now to judge from.
Yes.
If Grammozis is the coach for the entire season, do you think we get promoted or even really competing for it in the final few matches? If you feel you do, I mean, that's fine. I'm curious where your head's at right now. Where's your confidence level?
Well, I think what we knew from the beginning of the season was that it's going to be a tight league no matter what. It looks like St. Pauli's starting to get separation now. If they continue the way they started the first half, they're going to win by a good margin, I think. But to answer your question, if Grammozis stays, I think we'll be in the mix. And when I say in the mix, within 5 points of a promotion spot. Do we get it? I'm not confident based on how we've played the top 8 so far. If things change in the Rückrunde, great. But at present, how I feel, without even looking at these next 2 games, is we'll be in the mix because it's a tight league and everyone's bound to kill each other off. We'll be within shouting distance, but I don't think we will qualify for the promotion. What about you?
Yeah, I don't have the confidence at the moment. I feel like in recent fixtures, I've now lost it a little bit. I just, once again, and for me, it's the things that have been a struggle for us for most of the season kind of continue to be. And I don't see any signs that we're really moving towards addressing those. And I guess the feeling I have, and I could be wrong, because there are results like the Bremen result, for instance, where we kind of got 2 points stolen from us. But I feel like our point haul, even though we are, one result away from the top 3 technically right now in terms of points, I feel like we are, if anything, slightly overperforming rather than underperforming. That is just my feeling at the moment.
Based on optics, yeah.
So maybe that means there's more room for growth and we could turn that around. But I feel like there's a chance that end of the season we could be kind of in the exact same spot and just be that 7, 8, 9 region potentially. And yeah, I mean, once again, 2 weeks from now, maybe we win both of these and suddenly we're in 4th place, 3rd place. But I still think just the performances and the control that we have over games is not enough to see us through in here. I mean, like Pauli like controlled the game for the most part. And like,
Yes.
it's just too often I feel like we're kind of hanging on by a thread, and maybe we get a couple goals, but like, it's just the general play throughout most of the 90 minutes. It doesn't feel like we're a vastly superior team, if superior at all, in a lot of these matches.
And I think the difference between the way St. Pauli plays and the way we play offense, right? We get a lot of possession, but what the difference is, St. Pauli play with intent. We don't play with intent. Even in our best games, we really don't play with intent. There's flashes of it here and there, or a great Oyan play, a great Toronto poach or something, but St. Pauli played with intent. If you watch their attackers, they weren't static there. They were constantly moving around, constantly getting open. If you watch it, it just looked like a wave or something. They just keep moving around, looking for the free spot. We don't do that offensively.
Incredibly static in possession.
Incredibly static, and that's why
in our default build-up shapes, there's nothing happening. So like, yeah, maybe we have possession in games, but it's like, what are you doing with it?
Yeah.
And so often, especially in our own half, and this is like, there's a lot of teams that put emphasis on trying to win the ball back quickly, but like when we win the ball in our own half, we struggle so often to connect a couple passes, and we turn it over so often.
Yes.
I mean, the times we look dangerous for the most part in transition are when we kind of get the ball from them when they're in their half, and then we kind of it's just, I don't know. It's when we do have possession, it's too static, and then oftentimes when we're trying to get into a situation where we kind of have calm possession, we cannot connect. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I'm not smart enough tactically to figure it out, but something in terms of the system and the direction that Grammozis is giving them is not working for us in those areas, and I don't think it's gonna see us to where we need to be. So I'm not advocating necessarily that we fire him. As you know, I never take that lightly, calling for someone's job and someone's livelihood and everything. And like, it's just like, if the question is a confidence thing, I don't have the confidence right now. I'm not doom and gloom, but I don't have the confidence.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that I had a point and I forgot it.
That happens when I ramble sometimes. So my bad.
I started thinking about something else. To wrap this all back up to Tedesco, I think we play our best when we press, right? And I'm not necessarily saying we have to press for 90 minutes like we did against Bayern a few years ago under Tedesco, right? But I think this season we've looked our most dangerous, like you mentioned, when we press and steal the ball in their half, and all of a sudden we got this quick counter and we can feed it to Toronto or Bulter or whatever, and Oyan and these guys can do their magic. That's when we looked our best. So maybe we need to increase the pressing frequency, but again, you do it too much, or you burn yourself out for the whole game, and two, you leave yourself vulnerable for a counterattack the other way if you miss it. But it's something they need to figure out quickly because the current game plan is not working. Even when we're winning, it doesn't work well. It looks sloppy at best. So let's see what the next 2 games hold. Let's see what Nurnberg holds, and then Hamburg after that. So put a ball in this one.
Yeah,
cool. We went longer than I thought we were going to go. That's good. No, it's good.
Well, that's my bad for that little outro section there. So
it's all good. It's all good. Questions had to be asked, right? If you haven't done so yet, make sure you sign up for the Schalke US newsletter. Simply enter your email address and you will get them monthly. Continue being persistent with Schalke TV. We were successful. So just keep sending emails to them if you're here on this side of the pond, if you will. And then Jack, anything you want to plug, or where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
Very good. I am at R_KHARMAN. I just realized I can just read my thing without trying to memorize this, huh? Took 141 episodes to realize that, right? As always, we will not catch you on the watch along, but we'll catch you on the next podcast. Glück auf.